Moving on. We have a video from Metatron here that we're going to look at about the Muslim Vikings. Hooray! Yes, they're nothing if not innovative when it comes to, new ways to being fugitive. All right, I should probably turn this on, shouldn't I? And put on my fancy computer glasses. For the record, these allow me to read people's thoughts.
Vikings weren't necessarily blonde or
Hmm?
Scandinavian. Viking may not have been blonde
What do you
or
think of this
Scandinavian.
guy's hair? I think it's too long. Eh, just in general, too long. If from the back I mistake you from a woman, your hair is too long, okay?
United Kingdom, Vikings were not all white and some were Muslim. Pu-
Hmm. Hmm.
oh my gosh. What a clown world. Yeah, I can imagine all those Vikings just praying towards
Eurocentric.
Mecca before.
Eh, for the love. Oh my goodness. Like, it feels like if you're studying European history, then Eurocentrism is kind of the point. If you're studying African history or you know, Asian history, then Africocent oh, Afrocentrism, or like it's kind of endemic in the thing itself. I hope I'm using that word right. I should look it up
Going into a
again.
raid, and good luck writing the Quran with Nordic runes. Viking Muslims. Oh, the Viking Muslims.
To be fair, I think the Muslims do have a weird thing for women with fair skin and blonde hair. You'd have to look that up, but like Muhammad was very into some stuff like that.
This is dystopian. School children are to be taught that Vikings were not all white and some were
All right, I'm gonna
Muslim.
skip the preview because I don't want to. I wish they wouldn't do that sometimes because it feels like it kind of, yeah, no.
Hey, noble ones, it's me, your favorite Nordic Viking. I'm sorry, what? What did you just say to me? I can't be a Nordic Viking? Based on what? The fact that I'm a Southern European? Well, that sounds like derogatory language to me. What are you, some kind of racist? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, noble ones.
It's an accent thing. That's why you can't be a Viking. Sorry.
Welcome back to my.
No, weirdly, uh, I don't know. For whatever reason, a part of me thinks that like the bad Italian accent is the worst accent people can do. But like his I don't mind. But like there's kind of a thing with like I'm thinking like just like people who are pretending to have an accent are trying to pretend to have like an Italian accent. It's the worst, at least at the moment. It's the worst I can think of.
Channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and here we are. I've got a few tabs open. We're gonna learn a thing or two about the real Vikings. We're gonna start from CNN World. Vikings weren't necessarily blonde. Period.
It's not that shocking. Like it seems like a lot of cultures that were at a nexus of trade or travel were obviously quite ethnically ambiguous. You can look at North Africa, you can look at Israel, you can look at Egypt, Italy, Spain. All of these countries that were around the Mediterranean area there were a lot of travel would go along there, and because of that ethnic ambiguity. Now, I guess the Scandinavians were quite actually isolated, but because of their sea voyaging kind of stuff that took place, and not to mention the raids and whatnot, I imagine a degree of that ethnic ambiguity might have got into their genetics as well. I guess it doesn't seem that shocking that they weren't necessarily blonde. They also didn't have horns, for what that's worth.
Or Scandinavian. Period. Okay. Why everything you thought you knew about the Norsemen may be wrong. Everything. Guys, everything. Let me tell you though, the guy in the picture kind of looks like me, so
He weirdly looks like the European rendition of Jesus or something. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm starting to think you're full of shit.
Well, look at it. Look, he does look like he's coming straight out of some sort of, religious mural or something.
You know when you were saying this, Southern Europe? I don't know. I'm just saying. Vikings were not Scandinavian. I kind of have a feel where this is going, but let's go. An artistic reconstruction of a Southern European Viking. I told you.
Mm.
Sorry. Emphasizing here is the foreign gene flow into Viking Age Scandinavia. Okay, emphasize it all you want. London CNN, blonde-haired Scandinavian warriors who pillaged their way through Europe. Disgusting. We thought
Like, okay, it occurs to me that just because of what the Vikings did, like, do you really want ethnic diversity in the Vikings? I mean, they were kind of pillagers and probably rapists. But yeah, we need them to be ethnically diverse.
we knew everything about the
Like,
Vikings,
I'm just saying, I don't know if that's the win they think it is. Like, yeah, we need to make these people who went around raiding stuff and taking stuff from other people. We need to make them more ethnically.
but some new research suggests we've been getting it wrong. So yeah, blonde hair, Scandinavian. How would you even think to put those two words one next to the other? Oh, it's already pretty bad. You're saying blonde. Now you're gonna say Scandinavian next to it, and Viking. Bigotry. In the biggest study of its kind, published in the journal Nature Wednesday, researchers
Mm,
found that many
mm.
Vikings actually had brown hair.
Again, not that shocking. I'm thinking blonde might actually be a recessive gene, so just in general, it's not going to be like super. I guess I don't know. Mm. And curly hair to boot. Is that a trait kind of distinct to Southern Europe? I didn't think Italians would maybe tend to have pretty curly hair.
And they weren't just from Scandinavia. I'm going to have a look at this study, okay? But before we do that, dear CNN, World, Planet, many is not a scientific term.
That's
Not to
true.
mention, it
Technically, it just, I guess I don't know what it means. It's kind of a very ambiguous thing. It doesn't necessarily denote any sort of percentage, I don't think.
begs the question how many? Because, I mean, even today in the Nordic countries, it's not like everyone is freaking blonde. Still, there is a little bit of a pattern, though, if you compare it to where I'm from, but whatever. And they weren't just from Scandinavia. Aha. So, Vikings weren't necessarily blonde or Scandinavian, meaning what? They found seven in from a raid of 3,000 that
Mm.
weren't. I see. I'm gonna flip this back to you. Zulu weren't necessarily black. In a
Mm. Yeah, I would be proud to introduce myself as an African. For the record, you as a white person, you might have more grounds to claim African culture than they would have vice versa. Just saying, like Egypt and like North Africa, like I said, quite ethnically ambiguous. A lot of trade going on around, and they are on the African continent. Sub-Saharan Africa, that might be a little bit different. I think that was actually more isolated. Dude, I have literally seen pictures of like when they say black, back in the day, there would have been sub-Saharan Africans, I think maybe from Central Africa or something like that. They're like literally black. Okay, not brown black. They are like full on black. It seems like.
6 year study, archaeologists and academics used DNA technology to analyze more than 400 Viking skeletons from sites in Scandinavia, Greenland, and the
Now,
UK.
to be fair, I'm trying to think whether those are colored pictures. Sounds weird when you're talking about it. But I think they might. I don't know. You'd have to look that up though. But yeah, there are people from Central Africa that are like they're yeah.
Okay. Researchers use DNA technology to analyze remains. That's wonderful. Who's this? They discovered that Vikings didn't just hail from Scandinavia, they also had genes from both Asia and Southern Europe in their bloodline. Oh, in their bloodline.
Mm, mm. Again, not shocking. A lot of travel, a lot of trade, a lot of pillaging and stuff. So probably understandably either intermarrying or canoodling went on and all of that.
Fine. The studies by academics at the University of Cambridge in the UK and the University of Copenhagen in Denmark found that Viking burial site in Scotland contained local people.
This is so like I think I heard something about this. It's a wonderful source to get stuff from, but from Age of Empires 2, I think there was a part of it where they were showing like, okay, so the Vikings would have been in England at some point in time. I want to look that up to some point. I want to look that up at some point and figure out what that is because it's kind of cool to think of them as being in England. I don't know if they invaded at some point and had held some of that land as their own. I'm thinking Norman, not Norman, maybe William the Conqueror drove them out or something. I'm not for sure about that though.
Who may have taken on Viking identity.
Don't don't take that. I don't know if it was William the Conqueror, but I think at some point they would have been driven. Yeah, I'll forget it.
Listen, CNN study researchers. Let me get this straight. Viking burial sites in Scotland contain people from Scotland, among Norse, I suppose. Wow, what a revelation. Who would have thought? Taking on Viking identities, I'll have to see if they expand. Researchers say their findings shatter a lot of the preconceptions surrounding Vikings. Open quotes, the results change the perception of who a Viking actually was. The history books will need to be updated. Close quote.
I don't think so. It seems like the definition is fine the way it is. I don't know if this exception disproves the rule.
Quotes, said Eski Willerslev, a fellow of St. John's College, Cambridge. Open quotes, we didn't know genetically what they actually looked like until now, close quotes, Wilder added. He said the new research debunks the traditional image of blonde Viking. It doesn't debunk it. It doesn't debunk it. Just saying,
Mm,
yeah, there were blonde Vikings, but they also had Vikings with brown hair. Doesn't debunk it. It doesn't debunk it.
mm-hmm,
As many had brown hair. Many, again, what kind of scientists? Many. How many? And were influenced
mm.
by genetic influx from the outside of Scandinavia. The study
Yes, shocking. Shocking that the people who raided up and down the coasts of Europe, probably into Africa, a whole bunch of places, that those raiders maybe took captives and or wives or like that some children resulted from that. Yeah, that's astonishing.
also revealed genetic differences between the various Viking populations within Scandinavia, that's interesting, which suggests the different groups were more isolated than previously thought. So if they were more
So like subcultures, is it what they're saying?
isolated, sir, it serves to reason that there's going to be less mixing and they're going to be more homogeneous in if you do this in Scandinavia. Of course, if you do it in another land, anyways. And the research also indicated that Viking identity wasn't something exclusive to Viking themselves.
I don't get that Viking identity, but if you take on the Viking identity, then you. Oh,
I really need you to define that. Two skeletons found on Orkney off the northern coast of Scotland, which had DNA similar to modern day Irish and Scottish people, were buried in Viking style graves. They suggest they may have taken on Viking identities, researchers say. If you have an Irish man and he marries a Norse woman and then she dies, and then when he dies, he's like, I want to be buried with my wife. Oh, well, he took on the Viking identity, so we can't say Vikings were from Scandinavia anymore.
like again, I don't think that disproves the rule. For the record, he's being
Really, that's the logics. I know.
like the notion that there were people who were brought in doesn't mean that okay now that those other people can now own the culture. If that's the case, and I'm proud to own this, I am a proud African American man, right? Can't we take ownership of African cultures because all the ethnic ambiguity around the you know Mediterranean there? Because now since Africans aren't exclusively black, they're not entirely black. That means that we can do away with this idea of Afrocentrism. So again, I would like to introduce myself as a proud African man. That's part of my heritage now. We decided.
What they're doing. The word Viking, there he is, comes from the Scandinavian term vikingr, meaning pirate. Vikings are known to have traveled across Europe and beyond by sea. Many of these expeditions involved raiding monasteries. Yeah, nobody's.
Hmm. Had I said this before? Like it does seem like this is the kind of the great and wonderful making pirates and pillagers slash rapists slash whatever more diverse. I don't know if it's the win they think it is. I guess I don't know if they want to do that necessarily.
Effort, you know. But
There are things
Vikings
that maybe you would want to do that with regards to, but Vikings, really?
also traded
I, for the record, I get the fact that they're romanticized, but like get down to it, they kind of weren't the greatest of dudes.
goods such as fur, tusks, and seal fat. Hold on a minute. You just explained, sir, you just explained that Vikinger means pirate.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There was the Barbary Corsair slave trade, so Muslims already had their their pirates. For the record, actually, with regards to the Barbary Corsairs, I think actually a significant portion, at least, of the captains were actually European deserters. Maybe I'm going to take a look at that. It was an interesting type of time, but I think that was actually later, maybe more Middle Ages type of stuff. Well, I guess this was Middle Ages, more like I don't know exactly the date, but I think they would have been still active while after America was founded, because I think Thomas Jefferson had at one point went to negotiate with them or do some sort of deal to return some captives. Yeah, there was a whole slave trade in the Mediterranean there. The Barbary pirates, the Barbary corsairs.
So now that you're using the word after you explained it, I'm expecting you to use it to mean pirate. But now you're just saying that pirates also traded goods such as fur, tusks, and seal fat. See, here's the thing Norse did this, but those who instead went on a raiding party were called Vikings. Researchers
Hmm. And it does seem like there's kind of an important distinction there.
found that these all male raiding parties,
Mm, based.
I see a little misogyny there. Are you saying that women aren't empowered enough in that period to go on these raiding parties? Is that what you're saying, CNN? So here's the thing. If CNN World was not trying to push any political message, they would not only apply this to those ethnicities that they perceive to be a threat. No, they would apply the same method to anyone. Am I right? Here is the methodological frame of this article. We found some Vikings who had brown hair. We found a couple of Vikings that were not from Scandinavia. Hence, now we can debunk the idea that the Vikings were majority blonde and the Vikings were from Scandinavia. That's it, CNN World, since you have a tab dedicated to Africa to show your logical consistency.
Mm.
Zulu weren't necessarily black, period.
I've never been prouder to be African.
Or African, period. Why everything you thought you knew about the Zulu men may be wrong. How do I justify that? Oh, easy. All we need to do is find 3 people
Dream come true. Okay, just saying, dream come true.
buried nearby villages of the Zulu in
Yeah.
Africa who were from Europe. Maybe find an Asian while you're at it. I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
All right.
GB.
Anyways, you can look at this if you want to. Vikings were Muslims by Metatron.